It was announced that he had received a 4-year extension worth $240 million with a guarantee at $231 million. He becomes the first player in NFL history to get a contract valued at $60 million per year or more. And the Cowboys had a nice start to their season as they knock off the Cleveland Browns by a 33-17 score. Sunday Night Football last night, Lions over the Rams 26-20. Week 1 wraps up tonight with the 49ers hosting the Jets. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate. And look at you, hands perfectly placed on the wheel. Not like the driver to the right of you who's really going after that drum solo. Save with DriveWise and the Allstate app and only pay a rate based on you.
Not available in every state, subject to terms and conditions. Rating factors and savings vary, and in some states your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The innovation you've been waiting for is here. The Big Cheez-It Crunchwrap Supreme and Tostada from Taco Bell. Built on the 16X Cheez-It platform with the first flavor matrix stable enough to make a Cheez-It Tostada possible and cheesy enough to power a Crunchwrap. Because if you want to change the world, you have to bring something big to the table. Think big and order the Big Cheez-It Crunchwrap Supreme and Tostada from Taco Bell. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for limited time only while supplies last. Contact store for participation which varies.
No way football is played in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
You are listening to Football Full Circle indeed. It is a Monday live right here on FFC following the first full Sunday slate of the 2024 NFL season and week number 1. He is the mastermind of the pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. A recap and reaction to everything we saw on our first full Sunday slate throughout week 1 of this NFL campaign. We'll talk the second full Saturday of the year in college football. A monumental upset under the watchful eye of Touchdown Jesus. All of that and more here over this next hour up until 1 p.m. Eastern time. Lisi, what more could you want? It's a Monday. We look back on a Sunday and a full weekend of football, including the college ranks on Saturday.
Yeah, and it actually started Thursday and Friday with those games going right down to the wire, not just in terms of the NFL, but we saw BYU knock off SMU in regards to that ACC battle, right? Big 12 ACC, a shocking upset on the road, and then it just continued on Saturday afternoon into Sunday. So this is really setting the stage for now Monday night's battle between the San Francisco and the New York Jets. But I got to be honest, a very entertaining weekend of NFL and college action. Nothing better, baby. And it's just starting with week number 1 under the belt.
We called Friday a first full football Friday. This is our first true reaction Monday to what we saw throughout a full football weekend. Lisi guy, you said right down to the wire. That happened for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of their contract with quarterback Dak Prescott. Right before we got to kick in the early 1 p.m. Eastern time window, the big bombshell breaking news out of Dallas. Dak Prescott, 4-year, $240 million deal worth $60 million annually. It is the largest and the richest contract in the history of the NFL. Dak Prescott blowing through Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and Jordan Love, who were tied for the richest contracts in NFL history at $55 million per year. Dak Prescott, now the highest paid player in the history of the NFL. And then quickly after inking the bottom line, Lisi guy, he made good on the investment, as did Dallas, 33-17. The victory for the Cowboys on the road in Cleveland, one of the marquee matchups in the afternoon window for week number 1. The boys winning outright as a 2.5-point underdog in front of the dog pound, who was rightfully booing the poor quarterback play on their side. Deshaun Watson flat out stinks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Dak Prescott, the money that he got deserving in regards to what he was able to do last year, 69% completion percentage, over 4,500 yards, 36 touchdown passes, and one of the best offenses, the best offense in regards to the NFL last year. What Dak Prescott warrants that type of money. He just needs to now back it up in regards to a meaningful playoff win. That's the biggest thing. But Jerry Jones waited to the end. He made him sweat a little bit, but he's deserving of the money. And then he backed it up in terms of that performance. Even though he didn't light it up, that was still a complete performance by the Dallas Cowboys. They forced turnovers. And when you want to talk about a contract that is looking absolutely atrocious with the guaranteed money, Deshaun Watson is absolutely cooked as far as I'm concerned. He's past his prime. He looks like a washed-up fighter at this point. And where do the Cleveland Browns go from here? Because I don't know what the answer is.
That's a really good point, Lacey Guy. 2 quarterback contracts on full display. Dak Prescott has questions to answer in terms of playoff success for Dallas. The entire organization has those questions to answer. No Super Bowls since 1995, 13 playoff appearances in the last 28 NFL seasons, never even reaching the NFC Championship game. Dak is a part of that. He is not the only reason, just a 2-5, though, postseason record. But whether it's the regular season, the preseason practice, or the postseason, Deshaun Watson ain't worth a penny of guaranteed money at this point. The 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed deal that was given to Deshaun Watson. In return, Cleveland sent back a ton of draft capital to Houston, including 3 first-round picks. Lacey Guy, after serving an 11-game suspension for multiple violations of the NFL's personal conduct policy in 2022, in the 6 games that he played to end out that year, in the 5 full games that he played in 2023, and now in 2024, 12 fully completed games for Cleveland, Deshaun Watson has thrown for more than 250 yards only twice. He has 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That includes a dreadful debut in 2024 against Dallas. 24 of 45, 169 yards, a touchdown to 2 interceptions. The decision-making, awful. And you could not want to see this happen to a worse guy.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he put up a majority of those yards after they were down 30-3, right? I mean, in the first half, he had like 69 passing yards in regards to that performance. And the first year where he served the 11 games, you say, okay, you know, he was gone from the game. It's a little ring rust, no problem. Last year, he comes back. He was injury prone, didn't really look efficient and consistent. And then you come into this year and you say, okay, after him missing the back end of the regular season and seeing Joe Flacco take over that offense, put up 4 games of over 300 yards, you would think that Deshaun Watson would come into this year focused, in condition, and I didn't see it yesterday. He looked like a third stringer trying to make a team in regards to a 7th-round draft pick playing in the preseason. He had no idea where his reads were. And Ben, you cannot say that he doesn't have weapons now. Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, Njoku. I mean, that's not a bad group. Jerome Ford can catch the football. That's terrible. I mean, turnover prone, careless with the football, doesn't even look like he cares out there. And this is a pitiful performance. I'll say this. I would rather have DTR or Huntley in there in regards to anything. Get somebody that could be there. And Huntley's, if I'm going to get blown out,
for sure, if I'm going to get blown out by more than 2 touchdowns in my own home ballpark, at least give me a good investment on the quarterback. This is not that. I feel really bad for Browns fans. I will bag on Deshaun Watson consistently and continuously until he changed the narrative around his football performance, but it's an insult to mediocre. It's an abomination to average to even say that he is that right now in Cleveland. And Browns fans have to deal with this. And that stinks because there is no escape clause. There is no escape hatch out of this terrible, dreadful contract that will plague the Browns franchise. Kevin Stefanski won his 2nd Coach of the Year award in the NFL last year, not for leading Deshaun Watson in Cleveland in the postseason, but to lead Joe Flacco in the Browns to a playoff berth. Jameis Winston, get ready to start because you're not going to be trusting Deshaun Watson much longer in the land, at least in my estimation. The Cowboys, pretty solid. Dak didn't have to do much, just 179 yards and a touchdown. Zeke scored. Kevontae Turpin had a punt return touchdown. The Cowboys off to a really solid start. Lisi Guy, as an underdog 4 times last year for the boys, 0-4 against the spread, not covering by an average margin of 12 points per game. They were the short underdog yesterday in the land, and they made good on that outright number. A couple of other AFC North teams, of course, in action. And if you want to talk dreadful, that was the season opener in Cincinnati for the Bengals. The largest spread of the weekend, 7.5 points in favor of Cincy. Sure, no T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase isn't happy, but he played, as did Joe Burrow, and they barely had over 200 yards of total offense against New England as the Patriots, as a 7.5-point underdog, go into Cincinnati and win outright 16-10.
Yeah, and killed how many survivor pools yesterday, right? In regards to that. I'll say that $1.63 for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase against that defense. And I understand that defense was top 15 unit, but that offense was atrocious, led by Jacoby Brissett. And he looked more consistent, and they looked like they were willing to and wanted to win that game more than the Cincinnati Bengals. Makes absolutely no sense why this team continues to struggle year after year in terms of the first couple of games, but they need to change it up with Kansas City on deck.
Lacey Guy, the Bengals made the Super Bowl to end out the 2021 NFL season. In the 3 years since, the Bengals have lost their opener each and every year. Every game booked as at least a touchdown favorite. More reactions from Sunday next.
Coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A tropical system in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico is expected to strengthen this week into a tropical storm and dump heavy rains onto Mexico and Texas before reaching the U.S. as a potential hurricane. The system had maximum 50-mile-per-hour winds on Sunday and was forecast to drift slowly northwestward. Forecasters say it was too early to pinpoint the exact track of the storm and its potential impacts, but warned that the upper Texas and Louisiana coastlines could see damaging winds and storm surges beginning Tuesday evening. A Colorado State Patrol trooper is recovering after he was shot in the arm during a shootout near Denver that left the gunman dead. Corporal Ty Simcox was in his parked pickup in the center median of US 36 on Saturday afternoon when a passing driver fired at him multiple times with a semi-automatic pistol. The gunman, whose name has not been released, then pulled over, got out of his vehicle, and fired more shots through the windshield of the marked patrol vehicle. Simcox got out of the truck with his rifle and returned fire, killing the suspect.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
If I was to describe this sandwich in one word, I would say magical. Hi, this is Jamor, and the little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich is that extra oomph. I go back and forth from the spicy filet to the original filet. I get into the sweetness of the honey, then you have the extra kick from the spicy filet. The combination alone takes it over the top. It's award-winning.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to guess. Is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. So the Bengals, yet again, for a third straight season, drop a season opener as booked as at least a touchdown favorite. The Patriots, who had the lowest win total entering the year, chalk up one on their route to going over 4.5. First victory for Gerard Mayo in his first game as the Patriots head coach. Lisi Guy, elsewhere around the AFC North, the Steelers, also as an underdog, do what they do. They go into Atlanta. They win 18-10. Not Russell Wilson getting the start, but Justin Fields because of the calf injury to Russ. He was solid, 17 of 23, 156 yards, 57 more yards on the ground. The Steelers did not score an offensive touchdown, but that's fine. Chris Boswell was a perfect 6 for 6, including a 57-yarder to begin year number 10 in the Steel City. The Falcons' offense is the grave concern. Kirk Cousins, in his first football game in Atlanta, after tearing his Achilles a season ago, his final in Minnesota, the 36-year-old looked a little bit rusty, 155 yards and a touchdown, but 2 interceptions, including, Joe, an INT under 3 minutes remaining in regulation with the Falcons down by 5, and in Steelers territory, a costly pick that iced away the game. And I think Kirk Cousins is still seeing visions of T.J. Watt hunting him down. A sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits against the Dirty Birds yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, all I heard all off season was, don't worry, he's 100%. Though there's no rust. He's going to come back and just light it up and do what Kirk Cousins did over the past few seasons with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. And he throws for $155. They scored 10 points. Inconsistent 3-and-outs multiple times. And Pittsburgh grinds out yet another win over Atlanta. Those numbers in terms of all time, they're 16-2-1, I believe. The Steelers are after that win all time against the Falcons. And Tomlin is 5-0 as well, with Arthur Smith dialing up at least a game plan that put Justin Fields into a position to win that game. He played well within the scheme, got well over 50 yards rushing in terms of that matchup. Didn't have to throw all that much, and they relied on the defense. That's the recipe to win. So, again, is Atlanta the best team after? I think everybody's in agreement now that the best team in the NFC South is Tampa Bay after they dismantled Washington. No longer is this team a 12 or a 13-1 shot to win the Super Bowl. Everybody needs to get real with the Falcons.
The Falcons were an odds-on favorite to win the NFC South at -140. Still the slight favorite at +150, but the Saints blew out the Panthers 47-10. Things are not good for Bryce Young, and I'm not sure they are going to course correct. In the 18 games since Young was drafted, he has been the starter for 17 of them. Carolina has been booked as a dog all 18 times, including the debut of Dave Canales yesterday. They are 4-12-2 against the spread. And, Joe, a New Orleans offense that we thought would be a little bit stagnant to start was anything but. You were on the over of 42.5. You were on alt overs in the low 50s. New Orleans goes at home and wins big, 47-10 over the Panthers.
Yeah, part of that was the defensive effort by New Orleans. The other half was Taysom Hill and Derek Carr lighting up the defense. And the other was Bryce Young being, again, inefficient in the offense. Yeah. There were 3 quarterbacks. I'm going to couple them together, Ben. You could agree or disagree that I think they're in the same type of category. Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young, and Daniel Jones. I think you put all 3 of those guys together, you get the same type of quarterback, because I thought Dave Canales would actually bring the best out of Bryce Young. Again, staring down receivers, looked inconsistent, a deer in the headlights, didn't understand where he had to go with the football. Pocket presence was terrible in terms of mobility and getting outside. And just we see the same old thing with Bryce Young. Yeah. They need to change it up because there are weapons there. You know, there are weapons. I didn't think the offensive line played all that bad. But again, he's turnover prone, and he needs to change it up. Otherwise, they're not going to go anywhere.
No, they are certainly not, Lisa Guy. Yesterday, once again, Bryce Young throwing for less than 200 yards. It is the 10th time in his last 12 games he has thrown for less than 200. 13 of 30 for $161 and 2 INTs. You just have to see improvement for Bryce Young. He doesn't have to be incredible right away. He has been thrust into a tough situation in Charlotte. His head coach, Frank Reich, fired midway through last season. Dave Canales now takes over, but you got to see growth. We've seen regression for a guy who's thrown for more than 250 yards once in his NFL career. Again, 4-12-2 are the Panthers in 18 games as an underdog since the start of 2023. So the Saints look good in the NFC South. They win big. The Bucs looked fantastic at home against the Commanders. A lot of optimism for Jaden Daniels' debut for Washington. An underdog that a lot of people, Joe, I think we're looking at in Tampa getting 3.5 points were the Commanders. The Bucs say not so fast, winning 37-20 and fully in control for all 60 minutes. Baker Mayfield threw for nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was great yesterday against Washington. Jaden Daniels, less than 200 yards through the air, but 88 on the ground and 2 rushing scores, which you do see that athleticism on display. But the story was Tampa. The Bucs, to your point, Lacey Guy, have won this division 3 consecutive years. With Tom Brady when it was good, when Tom Brady when it was bad, with a losing record in 2022, and with Baker Mayfield last year in 2023, they still have the third best price at plus 230. 30 cents behind the Saints at 2-1, who are 50 cents behind the Falcons at plus 150. I think the Bucs are going to be there all season long.
Yeah, I agree. And again, they have the best quarterback in the division. I rate the quarterbacks: Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, right? You want to give it to Kirk Cousins and obviously Bryce Young dead last, right? So that's the way you got to break it down. Mike Evans stepped up, another dominating performance. I saw Rashad White. You catch the football out of the backfield. They only averaged 88 rushing yards per game last year, but Baker Mayfield and that offense elevated. He throws for 289. Yep. He averaged 272 down the stretch. That was with Dave Canales. And that defense really contained Jaden Daniels. So, again, this is the team to beat, complete effort. And I'll tell you this, 35-1 to win the NFC. That's going down.
Lacey Guy buying in on the Bucs. You mentioned Bryce Young, Deshaun Watson, and Daniel Jones. Not the category of quarterbacks you want to be in. We'll talk about Danny Dimes and his season debut. Boy, it was rough in MetLife against Minnesota. Next on Football Full Circle.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1965, LA Dodgers future Hall of Fame pitcher Sandy Koufax throws his 4th career no-hitter and first perfect game in a 1-0 win over the Chicago Cubs at Dodger Stadium.
1 strike away. Sandy into his windup. Here's the pitch. Swung on and missed. A perfect game.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Purdue University physicists have opened the world's first quantum disco with the world's tiniest disco ball. And by tiny, I mean a disco ball 1/100th the width of a human hair, made of glowing fluorescent nanodiamonds levitating inside a pure vacuum, spinning 1.2 billion times per minute. The point? Not to improve your platform shoe disco finger, but to simulate what happens to qubits inside a quantum computer. Computing power that could be 150 billion times faster than yesterday's supercomputer. And that's a lot cooler than John Travolta doing the funky chicken. Follow me at Chicapalvo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It's a place you don't want to be in a quarterback grouping with Daniel Jones. Yesterday in the debut at home for 2024, the G-Men were worked. 28-6. The Vikings go on the road and pick up a victory. Sam Darnold back in a place he knows well was really good. 19 of 24 for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. Aaron Jones, in his Minnesota debut, 14 carries, 94 yards on the ground, and a score. Justin Jefferson on the receiving end of one of those 2 touchdown tosses from Sam Darnold. Daniel Jones, Lacey guy, 22 of 42, 186 yards, 42 attempts for 186 yards. That's 4.4 yards per attempt. Not a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The Vikings were barely a moneyline favorite, laying minus 118 on that number, a 1.5 favorite. They absolutely rout the G-men in MetLife.
Yeah, 2 things. I actually think Minnesota, based off of what I saw yesterday, could be better than what people think heading into the year. And Sam Darnold played well within the scheme. Again, he's a veteran quarterback now. He's battle-tested. Love him or hate him, you're not going to have a Pat Mahomes type of performance each and every week. But when you have 2 of those wide receivers, you could put up points and move the football. And Aaron Jones is a great addition to that offense. On the flip side, Daniel Jones and this team, they're going nowhere, Ben. They have a 7-win total. I've seen more progression out of Jaden Daniels in one game than I've seen in 5 seasons with Daniel Jones under center with multiple offensive coordinators. Dinking and dunking throughout the afternoon when you have Wan'Dale Robinson and Slayton and all those wideouts. I mean, they're an above-average group. He's just not getting it. The bell hasn't, really, or the light hasn't gone off for Daniel Jones. Part of that is Dable, too. Go to Drew Lock now. Save the season. Go to Drew Lock. Roll the dice. Let's see what we have, and let's see if we can get to 8 or 9 wins, because this team is absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, they really are, Joe. It was part of the reason that I had the alternate line of the Vikings laying 6.5 at a plus 200 price, looking forward to this season opener. The odds were not really representative, in my opinion, of how bad the Giants are and were going to be yesterday in the home opener. That's what we saw. We talked about Jaden Daniels, his rookie debut, 2 other rookie quarterbacks starting week number 1. We'll talk about Bo Nix. It wasn't too pretty up in the Northwest against the Seahawks, and nor was it pretty for Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, making his debut at Soldier Field against the Titans. But Chicago's defense and special teams leads the Bears to a second-half comeback and a victory. The Titans were up 17-3 at the break. The Bears stormed back to win 24-17, even cover as a 3.5-point home favorite. The under of 43.5 comes through. First to Caleb. 14 of 29, only 93 yards. Looked shaky and inconsistent at the quarterback spot. Frankly, Joe, the Bears had 148 yards of total offense. But even worse than Caleb Williams, that guy, Will Levis. It's like Lacey's been trying to tell you for the better part of 2 years. He is not capable of being an NFL starting quarterback. 19 of 32 for 127 yards. Did throw a touchdown, sure, but 2 interceptions, including 1 in the fourth quarter that was taken back to the house. That might have been the worst pass ever thrown in the history of the National Football League. As he's falling to the ground, he tries to flick it or pitch it out, and it was taken the other way by Chicago. Will Levis was doing the surrender cobra on his knees on the field as the Bears were bringing back the game-winning pick 6. Chicago wins 24-17.
Yeah, so full disclosure, we got into this argument on Pro Football Today. I actually thought Will Levis was the most experienced quarterback in that type of game, and I said that they would step up, and he completely handed that game to the Chicago Bears. That aside, I don't think Will Levis is going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, and I still stand by that. But in that game, I actually gave him the edge over a rookie in terms of Caleb Williams. Big picture, I've said this time and time again, I'm not backing down. Matt Eberflus is the human anchor to that Chicago Bear offense. Even though he's not calling plays, he does not want to win games 40-20. Caleb Williams will never put up these dynamic MVP type of numbers like everybody's calling for. 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. Not going to happen. They were a run-heavy offense with Justin Fields. Last year, they were a run-heavy offense. This year, Ben, with short to intermediate throws, I still stand by it. Under the 8.5, even though they got 1 game under their belt.
I disagree. The defense will lead the way, and Caleb Williams will figure it out. A punt block return touchdown, a strip sack of Will Levis that led to points, and I don't care the Bears offense only converted a 2-point conversion. Chicago will win at least 9 games this year. More from Week 1 Sunday next on FFC.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash powered by The Score. Notable scores from the NFL yesterday. Steelers over the Falcons 18-10. Bills knock off the Cardinals 34-28. Bears over the Titans 24-17. Patriots upset the Bengals 16-10. Texans over the Colts at 29-27. Vikings look good against the Giants at 28-6. Cowboys beat the Browns 33-17. Dak Prescott got a contract extension before that game. The Sunday nighter had the Lions defeating the Rams in overtime by a 26-20 score. And now week 1 of the NFL season going to wrap up this evening with Monday Night Football in Santa Clara. The 49ers playing host to the Jets. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the Sports Grid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
When you switch and save with Progressive, you could use that money towards going to see your favorite team in the playoffs. Progressive cannot guarantee that you can go see your favorite team in the playoffs. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds on average, but we cannot guarantee that your favorite team will make the playoffs or even finish with a winning record. They could easily lose more than half their games and finish in the cellar because they stink badly and haven't made the playoffs in years. Savings? Very possible. Playoffs? Highly doubtful. Switch and see if you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance and Affiliates. Not available in all states. We cannot be held liable for your favorite team's terrible and frankly embarrassing performances now or ever.
You might wonder, John Legend, how do you keep your voice sounding so legendary? Honey. And how do I keep my protection against COVID-19 up to date? With a COVID shot this season, designed for recent variants.
You can get your COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC.
The fresher, the better.
Ask your healthcare provider about getting this season's COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means?
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. 3 rookie quarterbacks drafted in the top 12 in 2024 made their debuts. One picked up a victory, although it wasn't because of his arm. That was Caleb Williams, but has every right to be fired up, especially with the stats for number 1 overall pick, starting the season opener in the same year as their draft. Just 5-12-1 straight up, 3-14-1 ATS. The Bears win outright and cover. Not the case, though, Joe, for Denver's Bo Nix in Seattle. The Seahawks open up the Mike Macdonald era with a victory and a cover, 26-20, covering as a 5.5-point home favorite. Bo Nix, 26 of 42, $138, and 2 INTs. One that was so bad in the fourth quarter, throwing into multiple Seattle defenders, that Adam Archuleta on the call for the CBS broadcast before the ball was even picked off goes, "Oh no, it was that bad of an INT." He did have a rushing touchdown, that being Bo Nix, and it did make the game at least a 1-score deficit, but Seattle wins comfortably 26-20.
Yeah, and with Bo Nix, unfortunately, he's going through the growing pains. We talked about his efficiency last year with only 3 interceptions in college, the best touchdown to interception ratio and 78% completion percentage. But he's going to have growing pains in Sean Payton's offense. Again, I still think Bo Nix has pretty good upside in regards to the numbers. The 3,000, I think, was his number entering the season, 3,100. I still think, you keep him in there and allow him to gain this valuable experience. And he's going up against a defensive-minded head coach in McDonald. Very good secondary, in my opinion, in terms of Seattle. And those new pieces, including Byron Murphy, in regards to the dominant defensive front. So he struggled. But again, I think big picture, Bo Nix can figure it out enough where he could be a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. I'm not high on the team, though, and I'll say this, and I'm going to continue, Ben. Say it with me. Big bad Bo Nix will not save Sean Payton from walking away from this team before the end of the year. I'm telling you that now. I think he calls it. I said it, and they're not going to the playoffs. They're not going. He's in a major rebuild, and Sean Payton didn't sign up for this.
You said it. Lisi
I did
said
say it.
I do not expect that to be the case, but I'll allow Lisi to say it nonetheless. Lisi guy, elsewhere around the National Football League yesterday, a couple of large comebacks. Jacksonville had a 14-zip lead over Miami early in the opening half, 17-7 at the break. But Miami storms back. Jason Sanders, 52-yard field goal as time expires to win it for your Dolphins. However, Jacksonville does cover as a 3.5-point road favorite in South Florida. It was tied for the second highest total of the weekend. Along with the game in Brazil, it stayed under 49.5. Miami does win its 2024 debut.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill, we know about the off-the-field situation prior to the game. He did have a big touchdown. And I'm not concerned, honestly, with the Miami Dolphin offense, Ben. Is that defense? Can they put together a four-quarter effort each and every week? Can they shut down the run? I thought Travis Etienne and the rushing attack got going early on. Trevor Lawrence and was able to build a 17-point lead. And again, this is what Miami does at times, right? They play down sometimes to the level of competition, especially in the playoffs. You know, you get a matchup, you're supposed to beat these teams convincingly. Again, you know, it's what you would expect. I did like Jacksonville in the under, so I was happy about that. But again, it doesn't change my tune on Miami. They're maybe an 11-win football team, but I don't think they're going anywhere in the playoffs, unfortunately.
And that will be the task for the Dolphins. They well know it, of course, trying to win their first playoff game since the year 2000. Tyreek Hill was detained by Miami police prior to the game. That situation, of course, will be ongoing. He did play, and he scored a touchdown on a deep strike from Tua Tagovailoa. Trevor Lawrence, pretty good. But a Travis Etienne fumble in the second half, and to start off the fourth quarter, a turnover on downs for Jacksonville that stifled their offense. They were blanked in that second half. The Buffalo Bills were down 17-3 early against the Arizona Cardinals. They come all the way back. Buffalo wins 34-28. The Cards do cover, though, by the hook as a 6.5-point underdog in Western New York. Josh Allen, 2 passing scores, 2 rushing scores. Did leave the game, or exited after the game, I should say, with an injury to his non-throwing hand. It was wrapped up at his press conference. He said, not a big deal. I'm not a doctor, but I'll be fine. We heard from the doc, the pro football doc, Dr. David Chow, on the early line, said that he does not expect Josh Allen to even miss week number 2, as the Buffalo Bills will go on a short week Thursday night to Miami.
Yeah, and that'll be the test, right? How far along is this Buffalo team in regards to last year? Everybody thinks they'll take a minor step back in regards to the pieces that they lost defensively, and we saw Kyler Murray and that offense build another first-half lead, and they had to play with a deficit. But again, this rushing attack is sweet baby Ray Davis and James Cook, baby. They're humming. They can wear teams down, and that's where I think Josh Allen later in the year could potentially lead this team to an AFC championship, Ben, because, again, I'm buying into the physicality of the offensive line. The defense made second-half adjustments. They stepped up. Are they as elite as they were last year? I don't know, but this was still a 4th-ranked best statistical defense last year. I'm buying in. I was very impressed in the second half. Matt Collins stepped up as a complimentary wide receiver. He's a great addition and a veteran wide receiver. I like Buffalo this year, plus 950. That performance, even though it was sloppy, still has me buying into Buffalo big picture.
Buffalo no longer the favorites to win the AFC East, a divisional crown they have claimed 4 consecutive seasons. The New York Jets, will get to Monday Night Football in just a moment, have that favored mantle at this time. A divisional duel in Indianapolis, Joe. A high-scoring affair between the Texans and the Colts. Houston wins 29-27, over 48.5, but the Colts do cover as a 3.5-point home underdog. We saw both teams put up 14 points in the fourth quarter. We saw 5 consecutive possessions of a touchdown being scored from 6 minutes on in the third quarter until late in the fourth. C.J. Stroud starts his second year, much like his first, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, clean football. Joe Mixon in his Houston debut, 159 yards and a touchdown on 30 carries on the ground. Both of those Stroud passing scores into the arms of the other new offseason acquisition offensively, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? Stephon Diggs, the last 7 regular season games with Buffalo had no touchdowns. All of a sudden, they make him a team captain. He's going to be back to 1,200 receiving yards and potentially lead the AFC. I will say this, best team in the conference. It's a black and blue type of division. I still think Houston wins it. I think maybe 11 is the most we'll see in terms of wins, whoever wins it. But clearly, C.J. Stroud is still the best quarterback in the conference. And that includes Trevor Lawrence. I think definitely they stepped up, and they fit their identity, right? Throw the football, run it. Mixon, again, is an upgrade from Singletary. He can catch the football. This team is still the team to beat in regards to the AFC South.
It is Anthony Richardson's de facto rookie year when you truly think about it. Only 9 completions on only 19 attempts yesterday, but 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. You see some of the glimpses of the cannon attached to AR's right side, backing up on his heels under pressure, a 60-yard strike in stride to Alec Pierce in the opening quarter for a touchdown. Also 56 yards on the ground for Anthony Richardson and a touchdown. Joe, the guy has played in 5 games. He has completed 3 in his NFL career. He's got 5 rushing scores. I thought there was some to like out of Indy yesterday covering at home. And, oh, just by the way, Houston last year came out of nowhere to win the AFC South. Now they have the expectations. With C.J. Stroud, they have not been great covering numbers, just 3-6 against the spread as a favorite.
Yeah, you just want to get those wins. And again, I think it's going to go right down to the division. Right now it's Indy, and it is obviously the best team in Houston.
2 more recaps for you. Jim Harbaugh's debut in L.A. comes with a win. The other L.A. team in the Motor City, an overtime thriller on Sunday Night Football. Before a Monday Night Football handicap, all next.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A tropical system in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico is expected to strengthen this week into a tropical storm and dump heavy rains onto Mexico and Texas before reaching the U.S. as a potential hurricane. The system had maximum 50-mile-per-hour winds on Sunday and was forecast to drift slowly northwestward. Forecasters say it was too early to pinpoint the exact track of the storm and its potential impacts, but warned that the upper Texas and Louisiana coastlines could see damaging winds and storm surges beginning Tuesday evening. A Colorado State Patrol trooper is recovering after he was shot in the arm during a shootout near Denver that left the gunman dead. Corporal Ty Simcox was in his parked pickup in the center median of US 36 on Saturday afternoon when a passing driver fired at him multiple times with a semi-automatic pistol. The gunman, whose name has not been released, then pulled over, got out of his vehicle, and fired more shots through the windshield of the marked patrol vehicle. Simcox got out of the truck with his rifle and returned fire, killing the suspect.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com. Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. Jim Harbaugh in Los Angeles A perfect 1-0 as the Chargers defensively and on the ground handle the Raiders in LA. 22-10, the victory for the Bolts. They cover as a 3-point home favorite. A total in the low 40s stays under. Lisa guy Justin Herbert might be there at the quarterback spot. I don't think Jim Harbaugh or Greg Roman know that. 176 yards on the ground for LA, 176 rushing yards, only $140 through the air. Regardless, it ends in a victory for Jim Harbaugh in his Chargers debut.
Yeah, we knew that Jim Harbaugh wanted to instill a physicality, offensive, defensive lines. I thought it would take a couple of years for him to do that on how bad that defense was, but I got to give a lot of credit. He changed it around in just 1 year or at least one game for the LA Chargers. What is he now, 5-0 against the number in regards to week one performances for the most part? He stepped up. J.K. Dobbins, I mean, this man was forgotten coming off the ACL injury, 135 yards on the ground. I mean, they ran it. They stayed in manageable third downs. They wore down, which I thought was the more physical team in Las Vegas. And again, when you don't have to put the ball into Justin Herbert's hands 50 times, that's a recipe to win in the NFL now. We've seen the trend to lower scoring games where you don't need a shootout. And this was a great, divisional win. Big picture, I still don't think the Chargers are a playoff team, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah. Lisa guy, did Justin Herbert in 14 games last year, fully healthy for 13 of them. He never, or only once, I should say, did he have less than 30 attempts. 24. He had 26 yesterday against the Raiders. It was the fourth time in his now 5 years in the National Football League that Justin Herbert has had less than 30 pass attempts in a game. Welcome to a Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman reign in Los Angeles. In the Motor City, it was Detroit and the other LA team, the Rams, and an overtime thriller to start 2024 for both in a playoff rematch from a season ago. Matthew Stafford doing all that he could with a banged-up and short-staffed offensive line, losing Puka Nacua at the break as well. Threw for 317 yards, more than 100 into the arms of Cooper Kupp. But it goes to OT, and in overtime, Detroit takes advantage. 8-play, 70-yard drive that ate up nearly half of the extra session, ending in a David Montgomery touchdown. Detroit wins in OT 26-20. They cover Lisi Guy, 4.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. Two of the better teams in the NFC, right? They're going to be there. Detroit's still potentially the best team. Obviously now in regards to the North with Jordan Love going down, this gives them an opportunity to build off that. This was a rematch of last year's playoff game where it went right down to the wire. Detroit won but didn't cover 24-23. But again, that offensive line wore down the LA Rams. I was very impressed in terms of how they maintained their composure in the second half after building the lead. But I was still impressed with LA, Ben. Very impressed that we saw a bounce back from Cooper Kupp in regards to a 100-yard performance. We saw Jared Verse make his name known to that team. I'll still say it again. They're a dark horse to potentially win the West, and that's still not taken away from San Fran. But they are one of my better teams to potentially steal the NFC. As long as Stafford plays like that, and they figure out the defense, they're going to be there. And hats off to Jamison Williams. That's the player that we saw at Ohio State and Alabama in college, right? That's why it was a first-round selection, and they reached up to grab him coming off the ACL injury. He plays like that. Look out, baby. He might be the best wideout on that team.
More than 120 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown not even really that involved, and he got paid this offseason. I expect an uptick in his production. The Lions under Dan Campbell became the head coach to start 2021, 38-17 against the number. By far the best cover team in the last 3+ years in the NFL, and they were a favorite 16 times a season ago, 11-5 ATS. A cover with the overtime victory and that touchdown in the extra session. Now 12-5 against the spread as a favorite, with the expectations as a divisional champ and a favorite. Now into minus money because of the injury to Jordan Love. Friday night, of course, in Sao Paulo, the Packers losing to the Eagles 34-29. We're not exactly sure the timetable for Jordan Love. The Packers haven't officially released any information. Reports are it's a hurt or sprained MCL, but not the torn ACL that people might have expected on Friday night. But still, because of that, some maneuvering in the NFC North. The Bears now the second best price at 4-1. The Packers and the Vikings tied for the longest number at plus 550. Lisa Guy, let's go to Monday Night Football tonight to cap off an exciting week number 1. Marquee matchup in Santa Clara. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets travel to Northern California to take on the Super Bowl co-favorites, the San Francisco 49ers. San Fran, 4.5-point home favorite tonight against New York. The total at 43.5. Lisa, when this line opened in the summer, it was 5.5 in favor of the 49ers. It was 3.5 earlier on this Monday morning. Now back up to 4 and a hook. What do you like tonight?
I like the favorite. I don't love it, and I think we trend to the under, Ben. I just think it's a defensive game. From the prop perspective, Aaron Rodgers, if he plays, he utilizes the tight ends. Go back to the days of Mercedes Lewis and Tanyan. Look out for Tyler Conklin tonight, 29.5-point number. And Braylon Allen, I think, could be a factor as well. 15.5 rushing yards. Give me him. Yeah. And then I got to go to my guy, San Fran, Jawan Jennings. 15.5, 16.5. Big third play wide receiver. I'm not going Ayuk or Debo or McCaffrey. Yeah. Jawan Jennings.
As you do, my friend. What was the price on Jennings to score in Super Bowl 58?
7-1, 750, plus 750.
And it absolutely hit, as you would expect when Lisi Guy sprinkles a little bit of money, including Super Bowl 58. The 49ers were a favorite in all 20 games last year, only 9-11 against the number. I will be interested to see, Lisi Guy, with the Jets an underdog 14 times last year and an underdog to start 2024, how many more times, if Aaron Rodgers remains healthy, Gang Green is booked as a dog this season? Last year, just 6-8 ATS, but 5 of the 6 covers an outright win. Some college football news on the other side of the break here on Football Full Circle. The second full Saturday of the year. A recap with the Mastermind up next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Listen, we love the NFL being back in a week one slate, but we also love college football here on FFC, and it was our second full Saturday of the season with a ton of results that could mean a lot of significant things for 2024. We start, Joe, with the biggest game of the day inside the Big House. Top 10 tilt at the time between Texas and Michigan. The Longhorns, a touchdown favorite on the road in Ann Arbor against the reigning national champs. People wondered, how could Texas be a favorite over this Michigan team that won a national championship, that had won 23 consecutive home games? The Longhorns made good on that hefty spread. Dominant over Michigan, 31-12. Quinn Ewers nearly 250 through the air and 3 touchdowns, and the Longhorns limited Michigan to only 82 yards on the ground. It was all Texas, Lisi Guy, all Saturday afternoon in Ann Arbor.
It was, and, based off that performance where they snapped a 23-game home winning streak for Michigan, and how dominant Quinn Ewers in the passing attack was against Wink Martindale's defense, I would make the argument that you could put Texas number one, even though that was a dominant effort by Georgia on a neutral field to go into the Big House, to dominate and completely take out the rushing attack by Donovan Edwards and Mullings and make them completely one-dimensional. That was a 4-quarter effort. This team is focused. They potentially have the best quarterback in college football, and, we can make that argument, but he has now gone into Alabama, and he has gone into the Big House and knocked off both of those teams. I mean, hey, I'll put it this way. I was hesitant about Texas, but watching that defense play, that game in early October when Georgia comes to town is going to be amazing.
Lisi Guy, we said as we were breaking down the game on college football today, was Texas ready to grind it out in the trenches like Michigan wanted to do? They wanted to bring physicality. They wanted to shorten the game. They wanted to keep it under 41.5. Texas not only answered the call, but brought the fight right to Michigan, and I thought was the more physical and dominant team on Saturday in the Big House, snapping not only Michigan's 23-game home win streak, but their 16 consecutive wins dating back to last year, and of course the perfect 15-0 run to a national championship. The Maize and Blue fall all the way to 17 in the AP poll. Texas up past Ohio State, now ranked number 2 in the country, only behind Georgia. Quinn Ewers, to your point, Lisi Guy, now the Heisman Trophy favorite at a 5-1 price. His individual number very close to what Texas is now to win a national championship at plus 550. Again, those are correlated markets. Elsewhere, our second-ranked versus ranked game on Saturday, it was in Charlotte, and it wasn't close either. Tennessee wins 51-10 over NC State. The Vols easily cover as a 9.5-point favorite. Nico Iamaleava, solid for the Vols. The concern, Joe, is for the Pack. Not sure what they got offensively this year with Grayson McCall and Jordan Waters, but it has not worked the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, they'll be a bowl team. I don't know if they're a contender for the ACC, and it comes down to Grayson McCall. Certainly not the quarterback that we saw his freshman season when he knocked off Zach Wilson and BYU. He's sort of regressed from his sophomore season on, and we'll see if they can get back on track. But again, speed kills, baby. And Tennessee has a ton of it, not just offensively, but defensively, led by their linebacker / defensive end, Pierce. I mean, they are very dominant in run support. We knew that in order for NC State to be in this game, no turnovers, and run the football consistently with Jordan Waters. I mean, before you could blink, they were down by 3 scores. So that was a dominant effort. Keep an eye out for Tennessee. They play Georgia. They play some of the better teams. There's going to be about 6 or 7 teams now in the SEC that we're going to be talking about which is the best team heading into potentially week 12.
39 rushing yards. That's it for NC State on 28 carries. That's a yard, 0.4 per pop. Elsewhere, Lisi Guy, the story of Saturday, Northern Illinois in South Bend knocking off Notre Dame. The Huskies winning outright as a 28.5-point underdog, the largest spread upset we have seen in FBS college football since the 2021 season. NIU and Thomas Hammock's first ever win over an AP top 10 foe. The Huskies win outright 16-14.
Yeah, again, hats off to Thomas Hammock in Northern Illinois. They deserve to win that game. But if you're Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, You cannot allow that to happen. And you don't want to get the cover, that's fine. But you have to win that ball game convincingly, and they didn't.
Nebraska wins convincingly at home against Colorado as well, easily covering as a 6.5-point favorite, 28-10, a dominant defensive effort. He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. Football Full Circle returns tomorrow, noon Eastern time, right here on SportsGrid Radio.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge